So just as a recap, you want to clearly define what that problem or challenge is for everybody that you're speaking with. You want to already have thought of the solution. I think a lot of times people, they know what the problem is, they love to complain about the problem, but then they get into the meeting and they haven't given any thought to the solution, right? They can just clearly articulate what the issue is. So definitely have some solutions ready. And I think another thing as well that I often see in the product world is people trying to bring a solution to the table of this problem that they've thought about and thought about and thought about, but they haven't necessarily engaged the customer or talked with coworkers or gotten all of the stakeholders' insight so that they're really solving the wrong problem or they aren't working on the best solution. So I think it's really important to have a solution in mind, but also be open to knowing that, hey, I want your help in coming up with an even better solution. I think that's another really good way to share a very strong value story that'll get other people wanting to help you out. The third piece is that evidence. Hey, why is this the problem that we need to focus on, and what is the outcome and the ROI that's going to lead to it? And then the last two is the broader impact. How does this affect me, right? How is what Pam's telling me in this meeting affect my day to day, and why should I care? And then finally, that call to action. Here's what I need from you.
Right.
So going, continuing in that line so that we really kind of cover the whole value story piece, what would you say are some of the typical mistakes that you've seen with leaders when they're trying to tell a successful value story?
And there are a number. I'll try to keep my list relatively short, but let me share with you the ones I see most frequently. The number one, particularly in the digital health world or the healthcare information technology world, is they focus on the technology or the product, not the results. So often people really don't care about the tech itself. They just want to know what will be that overall change, how will it solve my problem, how will it create new opportunity, et cetera, not the tech itself or the features or functionality. Another thing I see happen quite frequently is they don't peel the onion away enough. They focus on fairly high level, generic or irrelevant metrics. They're not really doing what you just said, connecting to the pain points that the audience has, or even tailoring it to the unique organizational context. Because people think you've seen one health system, you've seen one health system, you've seen one practice, you've seen one lab, et cetera, et cetera. But in reality, every organization has unique competencies, capabilities that need to be considered as part of that value story.
And I have to imagine if you don't peel that onion back enough, it's going to come across like you don't really know what you're talking about.
Or even care enough, honestly.
Yeah.
And, another thing, and we're terrible, consultants in particular, but a lot of the healthcare industry overloads every conversation with so much jargon, and they throw the wrong kind of data out or the buzzwords, and they just need to tell a simple story. Sometimes they'll ignore the emotional side of that value story. They don't think about the fears or the values. They're not creating anecdotes or testimonials or even good narratives for that matter. And that ties to some of those fears. What are the risks and the uncertainties? What are those potential unintended consequences that could happen when you're going through this level of change? Another mistake that happens quite frequently is we overpromise and underdeliver. I mean, I guess that's been the story since time began, but I'd a lot rather see a smaller change with a smaller investment that's successful than, trying to boil the ocean and then failing because we didn't have all the components considered well. And so that ties to really thinking through, once the change is adopted and deployed, what will happen afterwards? How do you ensure that you go from your initial deployment to full scalability? All of those things really are quite frequent mistakes that are that organizations make when they're trying to say, oh, yeah, we have an ROI or there's value, without considering and building that into your whole value story.